Starting to see a conspiracy been fooling me when I watch TV. Their manufactured views all over the news. It's giving me the blues, and it's time to choose. Starting to wake up from this sleep, from all the lies they spread that run so deep. But I will lace no more. Who are they fighting for? It isn't me. But now I see there is a new world order, but we're not invited. So much blood and murder from the drones unsighted. World War III is haunting me. I've got to find a way to save my family. The human race has lost its way. We put our trust in science, but it's us who pay. Used to be civilized, but we've been compromised. We're on a one-way train. We've got to break this chain. Starting to see that we should be free. The powers that be want a piece of me. Should I do what they say or tell them go away? What is the price for freedom? Cause it sure ain't free. The time has come to raise the bar. There'll be nowhere to hide if there's a third world war. So let your voice be heard and let your heart decide to stand and fight for freedom while you've still got time. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Stand up, stand up. Stand up, stand up. Wake up, wake up. The time has come to fight. Wake up, wake up. Don't waste another night. Stand up, stand up. What are you waiting for? Stand up, stand up. Oh, they're gonna soon be at your door.
And good evening. Welcome to Raconteurs News on this Monday evening. It's the 18th of February. 18th of February. We're 4 days away. 4 days since Valentine's Day. I hope you all had a very good Valentine's Day. I'll just show you what these are. What I bought my wife. Fucking expensive bastards, and I got a dozen red roses as well, so it was all good. Hope you enjoyed your Valentine's Day. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I've got to show you them now, Anna. She's just said, and your sexy knickers, so I've got to show you them. So I'm going to stand up and show you them. There you go, some sexy knickers. There you go. Thank you very much, love. That was much appreciated. Showing my knickers on the interweb, as it were. I hope you've had a good day, a week, a year, or whatever. It's not been bad for me. This week it's not been too bad at all. I've found these. I've come to terms with the fact that I'm going to have this really big thigh for the foreseeable future, and so I found these shorts at soccersportsdirect.com. And what they are, I think the boxing shorts. They look like, when they look like the sort of shorts, like on Jeremy Kyle when there's a woman and she's on and she comes onto the show and boyfriend's been knocking her about a bit, and she comes on and she's inevitably taken a lesbian lover that looks like Peter Griffin that's been shaved. They inevitably have these sort of shorts on, and I'll tell you what, they are great shorts for the prosthetic and everything. So it is a crazy world, but I've got these shorts. They're pretty good. I've got some new clobber. It's been a pretty good week. Anyway, as usual, I'm joined by my host, my co-host. He had last week off for personal reasons, but he's back with me tonight. Good evening, Paul. How you doing, mate?
I'm sound, thanks, Jason. Going forward, stronger than ever.
Are we not looking at you tonight, mate?
I could try, but then I've been having technical issues all afternoon, so I'd rather, while it's working, stay safe.
Okay, all right. We'll stay safe and not look at you, mate. That it sounds like a plan. It's a crazy world. What's took? You know what? I've today. In fact, for the last few days, I've sort of, and I know I say this often.
You always say it.
But I've not really been taking much notice.
No way!
Much notice. We've got such fuck wittery going on. It's just crackers. In a nutshell, just tell me what's the craziest thing you've seen today?
One of the craziest things is 7 MPs walking out of the Labour Party and becoming independents. I'm interested to see where they think this is now going to go after coming out of the Labour Party, because I've already seen friends of mine saying, well, these are my personal politics. I'm going to go for the independents. I'm going, wow. So they come out of the Labour Party, all of a sudden all the politics have just changed and they're going to help you now. You know, that's the mentality of people. There's a change happened. That's going to be different. What? You know, it's baffling. It's baffling. But I was saying that when we just off air, Jason, that it seems like every day is competing with itself and each other to just bring more witches out. Like you said, I mean, the stuff that's going on. You've got Donald Trump building the wall. No, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Yes, he is. I've decided I'm going to make an order to build it. You know, and people are all jumping on this, and then we're concentrating on that. We've now got the ISIS girl who wants to come back to this country. We've got Canada have got an ISIS girl who wants to go back there as well. It's amazing how all these people want to do these things all at the same time, and they get all the airtime. And like I said, that thing where she said that people should feel a lot of sympathy for her because she went out over there and she didn't know what she was getting herself into. And then somebody replied quite funnily was, well, making a mistake at 15-year-old is getting caught pissed out your head with a bottle of Wicked on the park, not joining ISIS.
It is nuts, isn't it? I mean, we seem to be for me. It appears that they're preparing people for something that's going to happen.
Oh, it's got to, Jason. It's too bonkers, mate. You can't keep going on like it is. There's nothing. It's just strangeness every day. Strange.
And it just seems to be unabating as well. I mean, you've got, like you said, you've got these people leaving the Labour Party, and I think there's talk of them starting a centrist, centrist Blairite type party. So the National Socialists, we'll call them, shall we?
And like I said, yeah, and I've just had friends of mine say, "Well, I'm going to go with them." And you've skirted round the subjects there, but you just joined them all together. What the fuck what does it take to tell people this doesn't work? Because I can tell people that the courts, everything is all corrupt. They'll all agree with me. But hey, they've left. They've decided. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn's not it. I used to work with a fella who's still going on about the same thing about Jeremy Corbyn being an IRA. Not sympathiser, but a terrorist. Now he's ex-forces. He's got that opinion. That's all been put into him. There's no way of being able to expand on that. He's got a belief. It's there. You can't change that. And some of the strange things over in Ireland. There's a journalist citizen called Gran Torino, and he went just to film. People doing a talk shouting that refugees are welcome at this place. I think it was Ruscus or somewhere like that in Ireland. And he was being called fascist. There was people assaulting him, putting banners in front of him and everything. And he hadn't even said a word, Jason. He was just filming them doing their talks. But he was a fascist. So he was asking, well, why am I a fascist? What's your evidence? And he was so calm. I thought, bloody hell, he's doing well here. Because that sign must have touched him dozens of times, and he kept his cool. You've got to give him some credit for that, but it's the mentality of people. They've been given a line, they've been given an agenda, and they bought into it, and they think that, you know, they think that truly this is about people being racist, and you couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, there are racist people going to be involved in it, but the agenda is designed to cause this division. Look at the division with Tommy Robinson, what that's done to people. Look at the division with now this ISIS girl. People are saying, yes, she should come over. Celebrities saying she should be given another chance. This kid should be given another chance joining a terrorist group. But Liam Neeson, who spent a week off his fucking head wanting, you know, possibly being racist and wanting to kill somebody, doesn't get a second chance. We should boycott all his films and he should be bankrupt. So there's all these double standards coming out. And when you see all this happening, you've got to not buy into it. You've got to do what you were saying, where you've got to back out and look at what's coming. There's something bubbling here.
Something's definitely bubbling. And one of my little, being a football fan yourself, I'm finding it more and more increasingly difficult to watch Match of the Day, because Gary Lineker's been out and he keeps tweeting things about Brexit, and yet this is the guy which nobody's making the point of. This is the guy that was suckered on Brass Eye, I think it were called, a satirical show, into saying, you know, that if a paedophile sees a picture of this and there's a child right in the middle of the picture, quite far away in the picture, if a paedophile sees this, he will run at the picture to try and get to the child. Now, it's for me, it's almost when people when he's voting, when he's talking about Brexit, and he's talking about how we shouldn't be leaving the European Union. I keep expecting him to get a photograph out and with an EU flag right in the middle and say a Brexiteer would run at this picture just to get at the flag, because, you know, we're listening. We're not us, but, you know, not the people that listen to this broadcast, but, you know, regular people are listening to him and thinking he's some sort of authority figure simply because he's on TV.
Exactly, and that is the problem. That's why these people get celebrities to do that, because people are buying in. And look at what the celebrities are these days. Gemma Collins, people, no marks. No marks are being held up as role models. No marks are being held up as role models. You're meant to have respect for these people. I can't respect somebody just because I should respect them. How does that work, Jason? If you never met me and I walked up and knocked and spoke to you, would you have ultimate respect for me straight away? Or would you go, hey, well, all right, I'll have a chat with him, see how it goes, and then you go, yeah, he was all right, I've got a bit of respect for him. Is that not how it works? Have I been doing this wrong?
Yeah, respect is earned. It's not automatically given. And
so why should I just respect somebody because they've decided that they don't want to be a girl anymore, they want to be a boy, or vice versa? Why should I respect that? If that's their decision, I don't give a flying. But why should I respect that if it's against what I believe? These are the questions that you can't ask. You can't have those opinions anymore, and that is worrying. You know, whether I have opinions about that or not, that is worrying, that you cannot have those opinions. You know, there's no free speech for hate speech. What is hate speech? It's what somebody's going to define. And we know how fucking clever these wordsmiths are. They can make it define if you just say, oh, what a beautiful flower. That's hate speech. Bonkers world.
You're discriminating against the weeds, shall we say?
Exactly. I did actually see a picture. Sorry.
I wanted just to apologise for last Wednesday. I didn't do a show. I had it lined up and it were all ready and everything, and then my daughter decided to message me and ask me if she could come for dinner. So just because I don't see her very often, I chose her over you, and I'm sure that people will appreciate that. But I will get that Mandela Effect show going at some point. during the next, well, let's just say the next year, because you know, you never know what's going to go off here. It's fucking stupid world we live in. Anyway,
what year are we in anyway?
Say that again, sorry.
What year are we in anyway?
Oh, fuck knows, God knows. We probably all died in 2012, so I know we're all giggling and laughing and everything, but you know, it just does. It's no worse than the shit that they're fucking trying to provide to us as evidence of, like, you know, some young girl that was 16 and decided to go and fight for ISIS in Syria and saved up all the paper round money, obviously, and got a ticket to Syria, went over there, got tubbed by some Syrian ISIS man, and now wants to come back. And we're all in danger because she's got a child, and this is, you know, for fuck's sake, just have a day off. Why don't you?
We've even got, Jason, where a dad is interviewed saying, just give her a second chance. She's made a mistake. She's made a mistake. Then he comes out that he's photographed with Lee Rigby's killers, one of Lee Rigby's killers at a rally somewhere. So, has she grown up completely innocent, or has she had ideals around her? Because
or has she been fucking made up? Is it all just made up?
Exactly. And we've got to ask these questions, especially when fucking Sky is pushing it so much.
Fucking Sky. Anyway, we've got a guest tonight. It's one of our listeners. You all know him in the chat room. He's a rather confused young man. Because he's calls himself Uni-BlackSister in the chat room, and he might just only be one person, but he's certainly not black, and he's certainly not a sister as well. He's not female. Well,
have you just assumed his colour? Have you just assumed that man's colour? And have I just assumed his gender? We're not getting off to a good start here, you know.
We're not, are we? Good evening, Taylor. How you doing, mate?
Unmute.
I'm doing all right. As for the name, it's a name that I had that I used about, like, I don't know, like 5-6 years ago for some like role play stuff, and I kind of regret it. I thought it was stupid, but you know what? I've had the name for so long. I'm just gonna keep it because
what's in the name?
Why not?
It doesn't really matter what you call yourself. It's what's it's what's inside that matters. Shall we say?
Yeah.
So what's it like over there? Have you got ISIS people coming back that are going to, you know, blow things up and do things, or what's the state of play in the United States? You know what? I was just listening to Art Bell in the kitchen while I was cooking tea. What you would call dinner. We call it tea here in Yorkshire, but what you call it dinner. I was cooking dinner and I listened to Art Bell, and from years and years ago. I think it was from about 2002. But you know, even back then, it were pretty weird times. What's going on in the United States?
The U.S. of A., the so-called greatest country in the world, as they call it.
Yeah, you call it that. We don't call it that.
Well, a lot of Americans like to call it that. I mean,
yeah.
Let's be honest. Is there really a best country when they're all basically being controlled by the same people?
No, because there aren't any countries. They're all companies.
Exactly. Big companies that, I mean, how many actual countries are there left that aren't being controlled by the banks?
Syria's one. Syria's one of them. That's what they're fighting over now.
Syria, North Korea, Iran, and somebody else. I can't remember who, but
Afghanistan?
Get their head kicked in soon anyway.
Afghanistan. Definitely not Afghanistan.
No, definitely not. No. No, but you wanted to talk to us. You sent me a message, Taylor. You wanted to talk to us about a particular issue that was happening over there in the United States. I've got to say, I'm not really aware of this. So, can you give us some sort of background and then tell us what? Because you made a video as well, didn't you?
Yes. I don't know. Like, I can never stand listening to my own voice for some reason. I always just cringe. I'm like, dang, I sound like that. But then when I hear myself talking normally, I'm just like, I sound completely different. I don't know if it's my mic or if that's just how people are in general. I don't know. But yeah, I made a video on the topic, and basically, I wouldn't say this is exactly a huge. The thing I talked about itself was a huge issue. It's more of just it's a part of a big issue. Have you heard of the SJW social justice movement at all, by any chance?
Yeah.
What's your personal thoughts on it?
It's absolutely bonkers, mate. It's absolutely bonkers. Anybody who's taking all the clothes off and trying to scream through the vagina to protest something, I think there's something mentally wrong with them.
Yeah, it's been happening because I'm an anime fan. Because I'm a weeb now. Everyone's gonna say, "Oh, we got a weeb in the chat. We got a weeb. We got freaking." But basically, a few voice actors that have been getting pretty big in recent years. What happened? It happened a couple months ago. A man named Vic Mignogna basically. He works for a company called Funimation Entertainment. He basically got he was being accused of being a rapist and a pedophile because of a accused picture that that was circling around and went viral on the internet. The thing is that like about a week or two later, it was actually the people that made it was actually proven to be a photoshopped image, and the people who made it came out and actually said, and they were stupid. It was a Facebook group, and they basically wanted to get the guy publicly shamed, so that because they're working for somebody called Monica Rial, who's a woman who basically.
He's gone now again.
He's gone.
Can't hear you now, man. Can't hear you, Taylor. We can't hear you at all.
No, we can't.
Is this better?
That's better.
Yeah.
Well, what did you hear me up to?
We heard you up to some bloke had been. Who's this? Some bloke had been called like a nonce or something by people, and there'd been some sort of based upon some photo that you found out.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's Vic Mignogna. Basically, he's an actor, and but basically he's being set up by certain other individuals to look like a pedophile and a rapist, even though he really with false allegations that have no evidence to back them up, as well as photoshopped images where basically it's an image of the man having a regular hug with a fan who happens to be a female, like 16 years old or whatever. But the thing is that she actually came out. The same person in that photo actually came out and said, "This is Photoshop. This never happens." So, of course, nobody pays attention to that because everyone wants on the hate wagon because defend the woman because they're more important than the men. That whole mentality.
Do you really think that? I mean, do you think that they think that, or do you think that this is an agenda? Because I know that there is a lot of pro-female stuff, but do you think that's for me that's not the females, that's not women, that's the people that are trying to run this agenda.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But a lot of people think that it's just women. But like you said,
yeah, of course they do. They're going to, aren't they? You know, over here in this country, we've got women's football that's been forced down our throat. Nobody, women want to play football. That's fine. One of the things that it's fine. It's been forced down our throats. It's been pushed as if it's something huge. Like I've said before on this show, men's football. It began over 150 years ago and it developed and it grew into what it is now. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to force women's football into the same arena and the same size, and it just isn't going to work. But you know,
they don't care about that though. They're talking about that opiate for some masses. Football's an opiate for lots of masses, both male and female now. But then you've got the parts where young kids are now going to be indoctrinated, young girls are going to be indoctrinated into going into those teams. So that's why they're throwing all this non-existent money at it, and people think there's all these millions of pounds. This is what that's the distraction, Jason, not this ISIS girl. That's a different distraction. That's causing division and opinion as well. Football does that, but it's about tribalism. You know, it's all these different factors that people don't factor in for a control mechanism. And it's very subtle. It's very subtle.
Well, yeah. Yeah, go on, carry on.
Yeah, the whole because at least here in America, the whole SJW thing has become such a big topic.
What does SJW stand for, please?
Social Justice Warrior.
Right. Okay. So W might as well fucking stand for wanker then, shouldn't it?
Very much so.
Pretty much. And basically, I think it's mostly only huge here in the States. I'm not sure about there in England, but in the UK.
No, we got plenty.
I'm not surprised, but basically, to me, it really started like 4 years ago, I think, with 4 or 5 years ago with this thing called Gamergate. It's started with the video game market, and basically a woman was trying to, the same story. Basically, a woman is trying to move up in the video game market by crushing men because she is, being used as an agenda to basically get people to fight each other, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And it's resulted in a lot of censorship it has to do also with a lot of censorship in movies, video games, and TV shows. And especially of the sexual variety. Basically, nowadays you can have like muscular, sweaty men on a screen and freaking and beating each other up. But as soon as a woman shows any bit of cleavage, we can't have that.
Right. But that's not women's fault, is it? This is where women have been placed by society. This is where women have been placed. Women fall into two categories as far as idiot women fall into two categories, and they fall into category of either I need to be completely acquiescent to men, and I need to dress myself up and put a mask on that's going to attract men, and then there's the polar opposite, which is men are the enemy. Men are the people that they're all potential rapists, and are things as bad as that in America as they are over here?
I would say they're even worse over here, actually, because this is where it really started, and it's really been heating up the most over here.
You've been played like a good one. Been played like a good one. The women. I mean, going back to the suffragette movements, and then women in the workplace, getting them out the home and into workplace, taxing the other half, and and women's rights. It was funded by these people who've pushed this agenda. The Rockefeller Foundation. All these agendas are bringing us right to where we are now. They're the same foundations, maybe in different guises, that are pushing the social justice wanker movement now. But as I was saying, how these people not only promoted as we've got to tolerate, I've got to tolerate a woman who wants to strip naked and scream through her vagina because all men are toxic, are full of toxic masculinity. I have no idea what mental category I should put that into.
Now, there isn't one, is there, though?
I mean, it's like you can't really blame these people, though, because they've been set up, like they've been mentally set up like this. It's just like, this whole thing reminds me of the white men versus the Muslim fight after 9/11. That's what it reminds me of, and I actually mentioned that in my video. it's another distraction because the whole Muslim versus white men thing is pretty much done. So now this is the new thing, the SJW movement, basically put men against women, and keep fighting each other for these non-existent issues that don't even matter, that are being.
Yeah, I think they want to fight it until they push them together, so till that it's full-on misogynistic. So you can't tell. I mean, Martina Navratilova's coming out getting a bit of flack because she's saying that transgender women, it's unfair. The cheating. That's what she's come out with. And she's taking loads of flack for that.
But it's a fact, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a fact. I mean, there was a UFC fighter. Again, a bloke decides to trans into a woman, and he fractures a girl's skull in a UFC fight because he's physically stronger, biologically. It's madness. How people could even think about buying into this based on tolerance, which is a do what thou wilt mindset. That is pure Satanism.
Yeah,
it is.
It's all just meant to keep us fighting against each other, to distract us from the things that really matter.
And also, one of the things that we've got in this country, Taylor, I don't know, I don't suppose that they've been able to engineer a situation that it would work over there in the States, but here we've got not only a male versus female, gay versus straight, white versus black, one-legged against two-legged.
Catholic versus Protestant.
Catholic, Protestant, but we've also
that's
now
been around forever.
With the bollocks that's happened with Brexit is that we've now got young against old. So they've even opened up another avenue where people can be divided.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all they do is just divide. It's all they do is just freaking divide people. That's all that they want to do is just divide us, so that way that we keep fighting each other. So at the end, so that at the end of the day, we're all too exhausted to not realize who the real enemy actually is.
Yeah.
But we know who the real enemy is, but the regular people don't.
What are the regular people like? Around you, what sort of? I don't really know much about your background or anything like that, or what you do very much. But what are the regular people like? Are they as divided as we suggest they are? Because as a young person's perspective, I know you're about half my age, and it's good to see somebody that's half my age that's been able to think twice as much as I used to be able to think when I was your age. So what are the people like? Your peers.
Well, I can't speak for people in, say, in the rest of the country because, I'm just one man. But basically, from what I've seen, especially in the online community, like on YouTube and stuff, it's just people are just they're just so distracted. All these small things, like the Vic Vignana thing that I mentioned, or the or the things that you mentioned. Like, people just get so distracted by each of these individual things, and like we have to hang this man, we have to hang this woman. She must rot in hell because of what she did. But people just don't understand. Like, you solve one issue, and it doesn't matter. It's just like how many times have the government tried to censor the internet, and yet every single time they repeal it. They fight back against it. It's an infinite cycle. People just don't understand. You fight against one little problem, but you don't fight against the source. And that's what I've been trying to get across to people. Like, I've been typing in the comment sections of videos regarding the issue I mentioned, and I keep trying to tell people that what you're doing is just buying into the distraction. You need to fight against the people that are actually behind this. Like the Rockefeller Foundation.
Yeah, they haven't got a clue where to start. That's what the issues are. But I've been fortunate to know. I'm fortunate to have spoken with quite a few US citizens, male and female, and the ones I obviously speak to are in the process of looking to what to do about this, because they're waking up in and seeing what is being forced. I mean, you've got massive amounts of homelessness like we have over here. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And people are saying it's no money. There's no money. People have got to let go of the no money thing. They'll see what it is then. But I think what Jason was getting at is like, when you speak to like your parents or your close friends and stuff like that, are these people, have they got an open mind enough to, and an understanding of you as a man to say, well, obviously Taylor's not going to be off his face here. He's going to have an understanding. I'll open up to him and listen. Or are you met with that brick wall like a lot of people are?
Well, a lot of people I talk to, they just, my family especially, they just, they don't believe a word I say. All they do is just say, oh, you know, is talking a crock of nonsense. Like, for example, I was on YouTube, I believe this was a few days ago, and I was just typing in the comment. I saw people, it was one of those, it was a video by a channel called Moto Madness, who uploads like motorcycle crashes videos. I was just checking it out, just because I was bored. And basically, I saw there was a part in the video where one man, I bet you, insulting a guy, said, Trump, did you? You must be stupid. You must have voted for Trump because you're stupid. And then people in the comment section started going on and on about like pro versus anti-Trump. And I tried to tell them in the comments, Trump doesn't mean anything. You could put a literal monkey in as president and it would be the same result. He's just a puppet, just being used by the people that control him, just to be a distraction. He himself is a distraction.
Well, did you know, Taylor, that Trump published a book in 2000 and predicted not only the 9/11 attacks, but who would be orchestrating them in that book?
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it was on mainstream news in 2000 where they were debating, saying, but he predicted that. He predicted it. He said in 2000 when he wrote the book, and then they went, well, he actually could have wrote it earlier than that. It was published in 2000. So some people make him out to be this prophet, but we have to say, is there a controlled element here? Is he being fed some stuff? Is he just knowing? Is he part of this story that is taking the Pied Piper all the way down the line with people following him with whistles? And, there's quite a few other Pied Pipers and they're all trying to get to that centre bit. It's following. Again, we've just had the Labour Party. There's 7 candidates 7 MPs just left the Labour Party, resigned, and now they're going to set up another independent party. Friends of mine have already said, I'm going to pledge my allegiance to them. Following. Their politics are going to be exactly the same. There's nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. People just want to be followers. They don't ever want to think for themselves. It's like,
no.
That's what I also try to tell people.
Let me just give you an example. One of these things popped up on I very, very rarely comment on Facebook. The only things I do is for Raconteurs news, really, because it's just a fucking big pile of dog shit. And if I post something that's really, that people will really find interesting, nobody's going to get to see it. So fuck it. Who cares? Oh, and by the way, forum coming up very soon. Raconteursnews.com. I'm going to get that sorted all done because I'm in a position to be able to do that now. But anyway, so we'll have a platform to talk on. But I'm on Facebook, and it's I saw and I was compelled to comment simply because of the comments that were being made, and it was about this Syria. ISIS tart or whatever that were going away and wanted to come back and everything, and everyone's all up in arms about this. I mean, what is this Syrian woman? What is she, 19, 20 now? What is she going to do? She's going to come and kill us all. Well, everyone's all up in arms and everything. And I put underneath, I made a comment saying, "This is made up. You do realise that, don't you? This is all just made up nonsense to get you angry." And then somebody put underneath, and I just could not bring myself to respond to it, but somebody put underneath, oh, I suppose the Earth is flat, and that 9/11 was an inside job, and other conspiracy theories. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, this has worked out so well that you can get fucking idiots that know nothing to spout your rhetoric. I wish we could do that. Us as independent media, we could get people to just spout our rhetoric, because it's all rhetoric. Whatever.
It'd work, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
There was a couple of guys yesterday. One in particular, he made some comments on a post, and what it was is it was a picture, and it showed a white man holding a stick as if he was about to beat an Aboriginal back in the day, 100 and 200 years ago. And I've read about all the atrocities that were committed, up until the 70s out in the outback. It was still legal to just drive over an Aborigine if he was drunk or sober. So there have been atrocities put here, and there was a picture that just showed exactly what I'd said, but there was a comment about Aboriginal babies being buried up to the heads in sand, and they'd had competitions to see how many kicks it'd take to take the head off this kid. Now, that was a comment just on that picture. Somebody wanted to say that was they said that's a load of bollocks. Where's your evidence for this? And it was your mate, Rob Alford, said, why don't you just, for you asking that question and asking us to put comments on here to show you, you could put that in Google and find it yourself. And he said, I'm no interest in research. So that was bollocks. He has no interest in research.
That was Rob Alford, were it?
No, Rob Alford was the one who was telling him.
Right, okay.
It was my post. Rob Alford just said, you should be doing, do a bit of research instead of coming out with these silly comments. And then as he went down the post arguing, he said, I never said I don't do my research. So boom, there it is. And it was like a waste of time. He was like banging your face into a brick wall, Jason. Do you know what? You've got to let go of those people. You can't keep them tits around you for too long. They'll drag you down to their level.
No, you can't. And also, what you need to do as well is you need to get rid of. Fuck it.
Get rid of Facebook.
I'm going to say all the people in the chat room, but I don't want to do that because they're all good people. I want to say hello to them. Dinny's in the Lopsum Pathro. Lopsum. Can you just start doing names that are easy to read? Super Leeds, good evening, Super Leeds. Eric Cookie Monster on the show last night. Very good evening to you. He's going to be on just after us as well tonight. New Being, Same Man, Patrick Nee. Good evening, everybody who's in the chat room. Hello to you, and thank you for tuning in tonight. It's Raconteurs News 245. We are talking the usual crap that we talk. We've got with us, God, what's his
Taylor
name?
Beumeler.
Fucking hell, Beumeler. And we're getting an American's perspective. Webby weren't with us last week, so we didn't get his perspective on the stuff that's been going on, but we're sort of catching up, really. So it's the three of us. Don't forget, tomorrow night we've got Pippa King is going to be on the show. I'm looking forward to that. And speaking of Pippa King, because Adie is the person that interviewed Pippa King a couple of times on Raconteurs News, but he's not here anymore. He had quite a thing for her. But on the subject of Adie as well, he had his operation last week. He's fine. He's out of hospital. I've spoke to him this afternoon, and he's doing okay. So he's still a bit tired, and it feels like he's been kicked around everywhere, but he's still okay. So if you're listening, Adie, then let's hope you get better very, very soon. It's 7:45, and where we're going next, boys?
Well, I'll ask Taylor this one. I'm looking at the response to this before I've even said it, but Amazon, I'm being told that Amazon will pay a whopping $0 in federal taxes on $11.2 billion dollars of profit. How do you feel about that?
How can you feel about that except for just
Do you know what? Do you know what you?
it's the corporate. Go ahead.
No, I thought you cut off then. No, I'm saying that's what's happening with the corporates now. The people, the private citizens are funding the high street chains, and they're not even going on. They're not even opening stores. They're online, and we are funding these. I know that this is happening over here with council tax. The council tax business rates. It's 100% is meant to be taken from businesses. If they don't reach the 100% on businesses, they then go to council tax. Now, council tax is still a business, which is like a hereditary with either a guest house or some kind of commercial property attached to it. But then you've got the private man, woman who isn't liable. That's where the council tax is. The council tax is being put onto the private man and woman and the business rates that aren't business rates. That is what's happening over here, and we're funding the high street over here, and these companies aren't paying taxes, and you've got the same over there, Taylor, but you're further down the road. There was a woman commenting on one of the posts earlier on, and it was about utilities, and they were talking about over in the US, you've got the same system. You should be able to accept these debts and have the debt set off. But you've got federal agents turning up at people's houses, threatening them with arrest. You know, we've upset a few judges in this country. That's all. You know, so you're further down the road, but those taxes aren't being paid. All the private citizenry is paying it, and then you've still got what is it? Something like 18 billion now just been signed to give to Israel. What's going on?
All I can say is, well, this is the same thing that's really been going on for how many decades now? Possibly over a century now. It's like the big corporations just they don't like.
Listen, Taylor. Let me just add a caveat to that. What Webby just said, but first of all, give us some idea about what a regular, normal high street in the United States, in a town, a city. I know you call them cities, but what we call like villages, you call them cities. But you know, in a town or a city, with the average high street, is the average high street dying the same way that it is over here? Or what does it look like? Is there still one there?
I'm afraid I can't answer that question because I don't know.
You don't walk down an high street. You don't walk. You don't go anywhere. You don't see a high street. You don't go on.
Wait. Are you talking about regular street? I thought you meant like New York or something, like a high street.
No, a regular American high street.
We go shopping.
That would have been in past years. I know. I grew up in a pit village, a mining village and I knew that on a Saturday morning you could walk, and the high street was the centre of where everybody went. Everybody went there, whatever they needed. But now things are dying off. You know, you go because you needed some dog food, or you needed some fruit, or you needed some whatever, some coal, whatever. But you know, what is the high street? And now that's sort of dying off. What is the high street like in America, in a regular town or city?
I'm gonna have to say it's the same over here. It's nobody goes out anymore. It's mostly about most of the people that you see out, man. I'm telling you, man, like. People just get so distracted by their phones. It's crazy, and people just, especially when it comes to like, Pokemon Go and stuff like that. Like you cannot go for 5 minutes. Like the thing is, you barely ever see anybody. But when you do see people walking around, you can't, like, they always are doing stuff like playing Pokemon Go or something like that, and it just freaking makes me facepalm so hard, because it's like, can you take your eyes off your phone for 5 minutes, especially when people are driving in their cars and they're on their phone, like while they're driving, looking at the phone, and they could get into an accident. And it's just, But yeah,
But
to answer your question,
that life, the life that they have, that they use the phone as a proxy, seems to be more important than actual life itself. I mean, I noticed yesterday we went, me and my wife, were it yesterday or Saturday? Yesterday. We went to where did we go? Morrison. That's it. See,
hang on, did he really go? Have you making this up?
No. We went to Morrison's for his breakfast, so we decided we're going to have a breakfast in Morrison's, and sat adjacent to us there was a young couple in the 20s. I would have said probably 22, 23. Was it there?
Yeah.
And it wasn't particularly one of them, but it was the other one. They were a couple, and they were both on the phones. And you could see that the female, the girl, if I'm allowed to call her that, she did actually put her phone down, but he was constantly, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was just looking at his phone constantly throughout the whole thing, and I found it quite ridiculous, and I found it not offensive to me, but you know, if I'd have been that young lady, I would have thought, well, hang on a minute, you're looking at a fucking 4-inch square pane of glass rather than the woman that that you're supposed to be in some sort of relationship with. You know, it just seems that it's just gone completely nuts. Where you live, I just want to try and I want to pin you down on this. Where you live, Taylor. Do you have sort of a regular high street that you walk up and down that people go to, or are everybody going to out of town malls and doing online stuff? And what's the state of that? Because we don't get that. You know, we don't get. I know we see lots of stuff, American TV and stuff like that, but it's all so stereotyped. And what's the reality like? Are there places where people still congregate? I'm thinking about. Let's just take a movie, Groundhog Day. The Groundhog Day. What is it? Is it Gobbler's Knob or something that's in Groundhog Day? And it's a little town, and there's all the shops and all. Does that actually still exist?
No. I can definitely tell you no. There is nothing like that. Most holidays are just in general. I can't speak for the whole country, obviously, but at least from the places I go to. The only people I see walking around really are just people who are walking their dogs or are exercising, and that's really it. And everyone else is, if they are walking around, they're usually on their phone, or they're just, it's kind of like that game I mentioned, Pokemon Go. There are a lot of people that play that, especially a lot of kids who go around and they'll go into like private properties trying to catch the Pokemon, and it's ridiculous. Even my little brother does the same thing, and he's freaking 18 years old, and he's in the National Guard, and I just think, what are you doing?
Well, Taylor,
I mean, the guy
I was just saying, Taylor, there's a 9-year-old girl from Alabama who's killed herself because a parent said to her it was too early for her to go on a phone. She killed herself. That's
wow.
bad. That's how bad things are getting, pal.
But here's the thing: is there any proof to that story, or is it just a scare tactic? That's because I don't trust anything that the mainstream media says. Like they could say that.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. These are the questions that people have asked. I mean, it's New York Post, NBC, it's Washington Post. It's what me and Jason were talking about with Sky TV and this ISIS girl. Nobody knows. But the factor is, it's causing all the division, and while it's dividing people aren't thinking. And you yourself had just said that your parents and people around you think you think you're off your head. Yeah, you're probably the only sane voice in your family.
I would agree with that. Although I'm not perfect myself. Speaking of people killing themselves, I've been hearing like all these stories and stuff about people who, like, especially young kids who killed themselves because they were harassed over the internet, which actually I wanted to talk, and that leads me into what was being said last week by what's his name? The one that was going on about the online, the Facebook is cracking. You know, he's glad Facebook cracked down on the. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be one of those guys that said that he was, pardon my language, was talking a bunch of bullshit.
Okay, listen, we're all about opinions here, mate. Listen, we've got everyone's got an opinion, and everyone's entitled to share it. It's whether people agree or disagree. It's completely up to you. That's what we're here for. But yeah, go on. What was the bullshit?
Yeah.
Well, it's like I can't understand why people get so upset over things like online harassment. Like, what is online harassment? Freaking people calling you a faggot online, like through Facebook. Oh my God! This random person I don't know said through text that I'm a faggot or that I should kill myself. Oh my God! It's so terrible. And then, but I will agree with what he said though about how kids under a certain age should not use the internet. I agree with that, definitely, because it makes them crazy because they take everything to heart. But people that are like,
though, sorry, Taylor, I just want to bring this in. You know what you've got to understand is, I know it's very easy to say, look, you're getting shit online, and for certain people, it's very easy for them to then dismiss that shit and then just put it to one side. But for some people, it is difficult because they've built up an entire, and it particularly if you're in your early 20s and you've probably been on Facebook since you were 10. It's been at least 15 years on it now. So you've probably been on Facebook since you were 10, and you built up this online persona, and you know that people take notice of what people say about you, and so it's not natural. I don't think we can have a go at the people that are affected by that. I think that the way that we've brought up and the importance we've added to your social profile, and it's like when they're talking about a social credit system as well. So things that you do online will be credited, and you'll get good points, and you'll get points deducted for things that you don't. If you're listening to Raconteurs news, you're going to get points deducted, but if you're listening to Sky News, you're probably going to get points added on. That's all on your social credit, and that in itself has been self-perpetuating for a number of years, because I know of people that have their entire life completely online, and then when somebody criticizes them because their entire life is online, and whatever you think about that, because their entire life is online, then that is something that's deeply personal to them and can cause this sort of thing. And I think the issue really is it's not only that, it's not only how do we allow this insignificant thing to become so important in our life, it's also how do we deal with that when it does come into our life. So I don't want to do is I don't want to criticize people that I certainly don't want to criticize somebody that kills themselves because something's been said about them online. I can see that there's a way that could have been avoided, and I would implore anybody else that's going down that path to find another way for that to be avoided. But I just don't think it's quite as simple as just saying turn your fucking computer off, because I've tried it myself. I've had it where people have been at you and things have perhaps gotten to you, and you do perhaps say things that you perhaps don't mean or don't really understand the implications of. And that includes if you wanted to, if you thought to yourself, one of the ways to get out of this is to kill myself. Who's going to miss me anyway? Well, first of all, obviously that's self-pity, but still that person, there's a value in wanting to help that person and wanting to be able to stop that from happening. Sorry, Taylor, I didn't mean to get into your vibe.
Oh no, it's it's all right. All I can say is that what you just said, I can tell that you are a lot more nice to these kind of people than I am, because when I see these kind of people, I'm not as like sympathetic towards. I mean, I personally a few years ago, like about 5, 6 years ago, when I first started becoming active in social media, I used to have like a Facebook and Twitter. I had it for like a year or so, and I will admit I did get down in the dumps because of what people said, and because people were trying to um, basically frame me or ruin my character online. And but then I just realized, what does all of this even mean? Like how important is what some random person on the internet thinks of me? It isn't important. And personally, for anyone that does get seriously affected by this, I would say that that's a life lesson that they personally should go through. I don't mean to sound like a dick, but I personally think this is something that people should have to go through, because it makes them more mature. It teaches them something that they need to know, that the internet is not as important as real life. You can't let these things freaking get to you, because some of these people, there are genuine trolls online, but some of these people are freaking bots. They're not even people, they're bots, or they're CIA agents in disguise who are trying to stir up problems in a community. You don't even know who even is a genuine regular person anymore. So that's why you
Right.
can't.
So
You can't
I completely listen, Taylor. I completely understand that. What I'm trying to say to you, and I'm trying to use my age and experience, and what I'm trying to say to you is that the people that it's really easy to say to somebody, look, don't block it. I know I've got a 21-year-old daughter, and when she says somebody said something bad about me, and in fact she very rarely uses Facebook now, but back in the past she used to say to me, someone says said something bad about me, and this, that, and other. And I've said to her, just block them. But it's really difficult, because if they will find a way. If someone's determined to try to influence your life, and believe me, the people that are doing this know the people that they can target because of their social profile, and they see how they react to everything. Listen, I'm going to play a record and get myself a drink, and I suggest everybody does the same. So you're listening to Raconteurs News. It's Monday night. We've had an hour with Taylor Beumeler. Is it Beumeler or Beumeler? I can't remember. But anyway, we got Taylor on with us. Webby's back as well, and we are talking. Well, we're talking all sorts of nonsense, really. I'm going to play a couple of records. I'm going to get myself a drink. I'm going to go and have a wee as well. And so we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to play 2 records. First one's this one.
Let's get stoned, 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 stoned again. Let's get stoned, 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 stoned again. And if you don't have no money, you don't have to worry, 'cause I got plenty of weed, man. You can come and get stoned with me every fucking day and every fucking night. I think about the world and how it's turned so shy.
Like this United.
And I need some friends to roll with, so I can share my blues. Jase, Andy, Webby, and Adie on Raconteurs News. Let's get stoned, 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 stoned again. Let's get stoned, 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 stoned again. And if you don't have no money, you don't have to worry, 'cause I got plenty of weed, man. You can come and get stoned with me. Come on. Let's get stoned, 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 stoned again. Let's get stoned, 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 stoned again. Yeah, let's get really hammered. And if you don't have no money, you don't have to worry, 'cause I got plenty of weed, man. You can come and get stoned with me. You can come and get stoned with me. Nice, man. You can come and get stoned with me. I am a 1 in 10, another on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care. My arms are full of doking, malnutrition dulls my hair. My eyes are black and lifeless with an unprivileged stare. I'm the beggar on the corner, will no one spare a dime. I'm a child that never learned to read, 'cause no one spared the time. I am a 1 in 10, another on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care. I'm the murderer, the victim, I'm licensed to a gun. I'm a sad, bruised old lady in an alley or in a slum. I'm a middle-aged businessman with chronic heart disease. I'm another teenage suicide, the street that has no trees. I am a 1 in 10, another on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care. I'm a starving third world mother, refugee without a home. I'm a housewife hooked on Valley, I'm a pensioner alone. I'm a cancer-ridden specter discovering the earth. I'm another hungry baby, I'm an accident at birth. I am a 1 in 10, another on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care. I am a 1 in 10, another on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care. I am a 1 in 10, another on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care.
And welcome back to Raconteurs News. Sorry about that, I got a bit distracted. Wife decided to go to bed, so I had to give her a good night kiss and all the things. You're listening to Raconteurs News. I've got my my mate back. He's back. Guess who's back? Back again. Webby's back. Tell some friends where bingo, when big. And if you've been playing web bingo tonight, you've been pretty. It's been sparse, hasn't it? Been,
And Andy's cheated though. I was talking to him before we came on the show, and Andy's he's only got one left. He's already filled his line. He's been cheating.
Well, it's not Andy Bastard, is it?
No. Oh, you brought that up. I didn't. By the way, don't send me a picture of that prick again.
I'm sorry, mate, but you know, I thought I just happened to do. I was flicking through channels, and I got onto Sky News, and there he were, and I thought, oh my God, Webby would just be coming now if he, you know, if you were watching this. So I took a picture for you, and I sent it to you, and I do apologise for that. I'll try not to send you any more pictures of bastards.
No, not Andy bastards anyway.
Yeah, Andy bastards. That's
mate. I've just seen one of the satire sites that I look at, because this obviously is this ISIS girls trying everything to get some sympathy. Now, they put a quote in. The ISIS girl said that she would have voted Brexit.
Voted for Andy Bastard.
Yeah, she probably would have.
Well, she probably would, yeah, because you know, he will probably paying her to go away. But then again, she probably doesn't exist. So that's my position until I fucking know.
Yeah, well, we've got to ask the questions, mate. I'll tell you, in an age of information, ignorance is a choice. If you're willing to believe known liars, and take their word for stuff, I mean, it says a lot about people because they're passing this on to the children. For God's sake.
Yeah, and they don't seem to mind. They don't seem to mind. They
don't justify it, Jason. They've actually justified it. One fella, you know, get ready for bingo. One fella who I was talking to about with the gas told him all about the bills of exchange, everything, and he was a gas man. He was actually the warrants officer, and he understood it. He says, "I get that." I said, "But you're still going to teach kids to go and try and pay the bills, aren't you?" He said, "Yeah." So that's what you're up against.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, mate. It's absolutely nuts. And we're talking about how nuts the world is, and it seems that we've gone into this fucking really this
dark, isn't it?
Weird fucking place where you know you can be arrested for calling somebody who's a man, you know, instead of a woman. I mean, they were the woman who were arrested for wrongly. And by the way, this is on Twitter, so it didn't really happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's arrested because she called a transgender, let's just say a freak. She called a freak. That's what she is. If you think you're a woman and you're a man and you've got a penis, you're a freak. Simple as.
That's exactly how I feel. It's I don't know, like where did all this transgender idea started? Like the idea that, oh, maybe you should think about whether you're actually a male or female. When did that start? Like, how long has that been around for? Because
and I know for a fact that wasn't going on 30 years ago. Not pushed in mainstream like it is now. I mean, it's absolutely everywhere, and you know. You're not taking a child, a 2, 3, 4-year-old child does not suddenly say I'm gay and start talking about gay sex and things like that. There's something going on. You know, these kids are being groomed into this. This Desmond fella lad, he's 11 years old, dressed like Gwen Stefani, dancing up and down in a strip club for gay men, and the gay men are putting dollar bills in his pants, and social services and saying, I think we better investigate Desmond's parent skills here. There's something really dark about this world, and whilst people are still trying to stay in their own little light, once your lights are starting to fade, you know, what are you going to be able to see? Why don't we do something while we can see?
Yep, it's exactly right. It's just people, like, I don't want to use the term wake up because it's too easy. It's such a common phrase, but people, I guess, like, what else can I say, really? People just need to wake up and realize, you know, people need to get out of their little video game / anime world for 5 minutes and realize there's things more important than this.
We've said it so many times, me and Jason, though, that until it comes and punches you in the face and kicks you in the balls, I don't think people will come out, you know, until that bubble starts to either get smaller where they think, I better do something while I've still got a bubble. Because once that bubble's popped, well, we've seen where we go in history. There's nothing new. This is just a different route to the same place.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for like over 100 years now. I mean, it goes back to before even the 20th century.
Yeah,
I would say
the control and subjugation of people is always been.
That's always been. But I'm just talking about in its current form.
Yeah, but it's nothing new. It's just a current form. That's all it is. We've moved on a little bit. I mean, if somebody had said 30 years ago, when I was age 17, if the mainstream media started to talk about this, there would have been blood in the streets. I know that because I've seen when they force things too quickly and they've had to go back on it, things like poll tax and rioting and stuff like that, they then corporatize that poll tax. They put it into a building again. People think they've got to pay for that. Well, isn't it great that, hey, I've paid my mortgage off, I own my property? Well, you're still paying for it. You only own titles. The system is raping you, and people justify it for themselves. People will keep on justifying that there is money in this system. It's impossible. It's you that's adding value to a piece of paper, and just because two of you agree that piece of paper is worth something, people are willing to die over that agreement. And that is also a mental illness, as well as much as what we're talking about. People, it's the age-old argument about a 4-year-old. Like if my daughter come to me at 5 and said, I think I'm a boy, yeah, okay, well, let's see how we go on with that. Let the kid grow. You don't suddenly think, oh, hey, well, we'll have to go to the doctor, we'll have to go and see what this physician wants. It doesn't work like that. It never used to. And that would have been too big a step. But look around you. People are so complacent. I know people now say, that's a load of bullshit. That'll never catch on. You're in a different country, Taylor. You can see that it's going on. We can see it's going on. It's all coming in there, but there's still people who've got those blinkers on and say, that will never happen. They are shocked when I show them that current members of parliament, current MPs, who had been calling 30 years ago for the age of consent to be lowered to 10. And these people have always been here. So this agenda has been slightly pushed all the time. If you've ever get a chance to, I don't know if you've ever looked into it. Have you ever heard of a guy called Alfred Kinsey?
No.
Have a look at Alfred Kinsey on YouTube. There's a good documentary on about him. I don't know if it's called Kinsey's Kids or something like that. But he wrote 2 books in the 40s, The Complete Sexual History of Man and The Complete Sexual History of Woman. In those books, he has imperial metric measurements and in a table. And it was applied to the amount of orgasms in a certain 24-hour period on different age groups. And would you believe that 0 to 6 months old children could have 4 orgasms in 24 hours? He promoted that children were sexual from when they breathed. And that went into the sexual revolution that changed in the 50s. And then we fucked everybody up with LSD and everything in the 60s. And then all of a sudden, there's an agenda after Kennedy and the Vietnam War. Then 9/11, boom, 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 boom. Do you see how all those little things have suddenly, after a creep, from the 60s, it's gone, boom, 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 boom. It's all.
Yep, just like with Operation Northwoods, how they planned something like 9/11 back then.
Of course.
They just couldn't do it.
So they had it all there. Kennedy said, no, we're not going to blow up an aeroplane. We're full of American citizens, so we can go to war. Oh, we better get rid of him. Yeah, let's do it.
You took it Operation Northwoods.
Yeah.
Operation Northwoods, yeah. Lionel Lemnitz with the chief of staff, and he brought together this plan and brought it to Kennedy. And I think this is in the 9/11 Truth Movement, bowel movement, whatever it's fucking called these days. But I think that's one of the you know, when people say they would never do that, they'd never do that to their own country, never do all that sort of thing. Operation Northwoods is the bit of evidence. It's in 1962, 61?
Yeah, something like that.
61, I think.
During Kennedy's
62,
time, basically.
But what they said is what we'll do is they wanted to go to war in Cuba. They wanted to invade Cuba, and there'd been the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion that had happened, where everyone had got fucking shot to bits like America normally does when it goes into places. But what they wanted to in order for an appetite for war to happen, is they needed a plan for something to happen, and the plan was that they were going to get a plane, and then they were going to substitute the plane were going to be full of football players, school children, essentially school high school kids, and then they were going to blow it. The plane was going to be replaced in midair. The original plane were going to land, and then they were going to blow up the remote control plane. And Lionel Lemnitz brought that forward, and they were plans for mock funerals and all sorts of things. And Kennedy said, "No, we're not doing that. That's fucking ridiculous."
That's one of the reasons why I always say Kennedy was by far the best president we've ever had.
Well, you know, he got more pussy than most of them. I think that's probably if you.
The one thing I'd say about Kennedy is it was the last kind of hope of, shall we say, maybe clean cut corporate fraud, cleaner cut corporate fraud, because you can't look at the Kennedys and think and build them up into this shining pure white, because they weren't. There is something there, but they obviously realized they were up against something so much darker, and he was willing to put his life on the line for that by, you know, even signing, even bringing on in getting rid of the Federal Reserve again. It's a no. We know this. We know that if we start talking Federal Reserve, if we all of a sudden now got enough people together to say, Bank of England, you're not printing out money anymore, we're going to do it, we would be going to war within the next 3 months, because they cannot allow that cash cow. And that is the worrying aspect of what you were talking about, Taylor, people waking up. It's that aspect, because once people stand up and these chains fall off, the cash cow is gone. That is it. The trouble is they've got very, very misguided people who are willing to follow orders to such an extent that they are going to make the streets bloody unless we can stop it before we get to that. And that would be engaging with the judicial system and the stopping of paying taxes, the stopping of the system, just the stopping of it. But you need that key element of people to grab hold and stop that. And we've got people trying to chase the tails every single day in a system that is designed for you to, as long as you keep running around in circles, the rope gets tighter and tighter and tighter until you are dead. The system teaches us to try and pay bills in a debt-based economy. You can't. So the system makes you fail in your obligations. So the government have to step in as your adult because as a child, you've made a mess of things. We've got to take things off you now. You're trained to allow the government to take things off you. That is the mentality of people, that you've got to erase all that. You've got to reboot. And that's the difficult part, is unlearning all that indoctrination.
Well, let's not pretend. Go on. You carry on, Taylor.
That's why that's why I always say we need people like PewDiePie on our side, people that have a huge following, that aren't from the mainstream media, that we could, you know, if we brought big people on YouTube over to our side, while it is just YouTube, it would make a huge difference. It would like say, if someone like PewDiePie was to come out today and was to make a video saying, you know, talking about the stuff that we talk about, saying, oh, everyone, do not pay your taxes, we live in a debt-based economy.
He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. He's not from this side of the fence.
He's playing the game.
He's not from this side of the fence, that Pillock.
I know. That's why I'm saying that we should. That's why I say it's if we can we can try to bring someone like that over. I'm not sure if it's possible, but
it's not possible.
I don't think so.
Taylor, it just is not possible.
The ones who are talking to us
remember-
is the ones who are awake, isn't it, Jason? The ones who are talking about this now, the ones who are talking about we need to do something, they're the ones that are going to do something. These big celebrities now, they're all jumping onto YouTube because the mainstream media is losing its grip. That's why Netflix took over for such a big boom. Netflix are now quaking. There's a lot of changes. You said earlier on, Jason, that there's something not right. There's something bubbling, and it's difficult because there's so many of those distractions. You know, you've really got to take a couple of steps back to see a bigger picture.
Well, I don't want to like burst your bubble, and I don't want to curb your enthusiasm, and you know, whatever you want to do, that is great.
I'm not a naive man. I know that like I'm not a naive man. I know that like that these people are just fucking. I don't want to use the word stupid, but like they're freaking like they don't know these things, and that they're too caught up in their money.
Believe me, Taylor, they're not stupid, right? Now, coming from, I went back in the day, shall we say, back 2005, 2006. But I was working loosely on I was working on Loose Change, and Loose Change, the second edition when that came out, and then Loose Change Final Cut was going to come out, and that's where I sort of I got disattached from Corey, Jason, and Dylan, and because they'd got coming on board, we got Mark Cuban, who was a filmmaker and a billionaire. Sorry, Mark Cuban, and Charlie Sheen was coming on board as well. He was going to do the narration for the final cut, and as soon as that happened, I knew that it was over. The Loose Change second edition was the best, and it was going to get worse from there. I knew that it was over. We got Mark Cuban on board, and what happened with Mark Cuban is he got vilified, and it was as though his entire life were going to be destroyed, and he pulled out. And then Charlie Sheen got into it, and I know there were a couple of times where they visited with Charlie Sheen, and he was drawn in. They were drawn into the Charlie Sheen circle, as it were. And then suddenly, well, not suddenly, but you know, a few years later, we've got Charlie Sheen with his winning, and now Charlie Sheen's got AIDS. It just, you know, people that like we're talking about JFK. JFK had his flaws. Everyone has flaws. JFK.
What do you think JFK's big flaw was?
Sorry?
What do you think like JFK's biggest flaw was, like to you personally?
Women. My biggest flaw. Women.
Oh, are you talking about the whole Marilyn Monroe thing?
No, I'm not. I'm just talking about women in general. He had a weakness for women, and also it was in. I think it was. Remember JFK. When he was a kid, he was a sickly kid. He was in hospital most of the time. A lot of the time, he was quite ill. And you know, when he were a kid and growing up, it didn't look like that he was going to make it into his early years. You know, into his 20s and things like that. And so when he gets into that, and then he gets some power, don't forget that is quite invigorating for somebody. And then he has this power, and then he has this power that attracts women, no doubt attract men as well, but you know, that was his gig, you know, attract women, and that was his weakness. The weakness that he had was the women, and everything that I'm not talking about women shooting him or assassinating him, but the information that was given to the people that were responsible for his death would have come from these women. Pillow talk. that sort of thing. You know,
Are you talking about what's Marita Lorenz or whatever her name is?
I'm not talking about anyone specifically. I'm just talking about how he had, you know, his big weakness was women. That's all. No,
Yeah,
I know he had a
the
thing
reason
with
why I'm
Marilyn
asking is
Monroe.
because of the reason why I'm asking is because I've never I haven't really heard much about this, so I don't know.
Well, I know that there is a woman who had an affair. I don't know whether her or Robert, but there is a woman that wrote a book about her, and I think it was John. It might have been Robert, but anyway, it's all in there. And he had this weakness, and that's what will happen is that your weakness will be exploited. People will exploit your weakness, so it's easy to send a honey trap into, and then that person's going to find out all sorts of different things, and then they're going to decide, well, hang on a minute, we probably need to get rid of this cunt because he's going to fuck up everything that we're working towards since World War II.
See, we had a guy over here in the 70s, Taylor, called Tim Fortescue, Lord Fortescue. He was on a BBC documentary, and he was talking about these things. And he says, well, yes, he says we'd have say somebody who'd come to us with who's involved in a scandal, say debt or young boys, and they'd ask us if we could do anything, and he says we would make it go away, and he says, and we would notch up brownie points, and then later on, if there was something that they could do for us, we would call in the favour. This is how politics works in every country.
Yeah, but Jason, what you were just talking about, the woman who wrote that book, I believe that actually was Sam Giancana's girlfriend. Whatever her, I forgot her name, but I believe she was the one that actually gave that testimony, and that's why I'm not really that, and that's why I don't particularly believe it that much. Now, I'm not entirely sure, like, how you feel about that particular case, but
I'm not talking about specific incidents, but what you've got to understand is that JFK's weakness was his liking for women. And what I was saying before, we're talking about a kid, somebody who's throughout his childhood has been in and out of hospital, has been probably felt weak and then that invigoration of being, a powerful and being a president or a senator or whatever, and he's probably overcompensated like that. He's probably the same with me. I've got one fucking leg. And you know what? If some woman showed me some, I'd be open. I won't be open, sorry, but I'd be fucking. What's the word? If somebody were to give me some sort of attention, then I may fall for that attention for the wrong reasons. That's what I'm trying to say. That JFK wasn't a particular incident. I know there are several things, and if you go and look at JFK with women, there were Marilyn Monroe, there was this woman who, and I believe, wrote a book but I think she ended up being found dead in a canal or something daft like that. But I wish I'd done my research. I wish we were going to talk about this, but it's coming from recesses somewhere. But yeah, the point I was making is that JFK had a weakness, and the weakness was women, not any particular specific case.
I mean, it's like none of us are perfect. We're only human. We all have our weaknesses, and women just so happens to be a common one.
I'm perfect.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a perfect being out there. You never know.
I've not had no tequila, but somebody called me racist once, and I told them I'm not racist. I've got a black leg.
There you go. If you don't mind, may I ask a sort of a weird question? If let's say if JFK, like say you took him, like say hypothetical situation, if time travel was possible, you went back to the past, you saved JFK, you brought him to the present timeline, and everything was still the same, so no time altering, anything like that, what do you think he would say?
Go on, Webby.
He's asking you.
I know it's a ridiculous question, but I just
No, he's asking you, Webby. Definitely.
You want me to what JFK would think about the times now?
What would the legacy be if JFK had, if you could go back in time and go up to the grassy knoll and put your finger in the end of the gun so that he weren't, he didn't get shot.
So it's grassy knoll. It's not the storm drain or anything like that. It's the grassy knoll. So we're still on the right. That doesn't happen. Well, it happened in Timeless actually on Netflix. They went back and they saved JFK and they told him, "Don't go to Dallas." So he didn't go to Dallas. And they shot him in somewhere else, in Boston or somewhere like that on their timeline. So I can't see. It's nice if you wanted to speculate about it, but
we are speculating. What we want to know is, what do you think he would have made of today's world?
No, well, all I meant was like.
No, what he means is, what he's saying is, if JFK had carried on as president and the everything hadn't fell out onto that, it would be a different timeline, wouldn't it? It would have been JFK's expression of America and where that would have gone. I just,
Well, I mean, no, my question was like, if you actually took him from that time and you time travel with him to this current time, what would his what would his
well, I can support Jason on that, because I watched the Timeless episode where they did that. They took him out of his college in 1930, 1920 something, brought him to the present day, and he was still chasing women.
Oh my God. I mean, would he really want women from nowadays? Women from nowadays are kind of I don't mean to generalize, but
well, because they took on the program, they took him into the future. As soon as the women started talking to him, all the women were going, "Oh, his accent. Oh, he's so intelligent. Oh," and they were falling all over.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Did you just say? Did you just say the women from nowadays are a bit? So what are you doing? I mean, what is it? The women from nowadays are so bad that we're gonna have to have sex with great old women. And I know there were a woman on Chase 91 years old, and in fact she described herself as 91 and a half. Are we supposed to just go? It's just.
I mean, I don't mean to generalize, because I'm not saying everyone's like that, but just. I mean, if you look at the current the millennial generation, they are by far the least married generation out of all of them. And
listen, look, let me just do a quick recap so everyone knows. Listen, hi everybody, you're listening to Raconteurs News on this Monday night. It's the 18th of February 2019. I've got Paul's back with me after his after his time off, and we are interviewing young Peter Griffin. So he's over there in Washington State. We've been talking about JFK, and we're talking about all sorts of stuff. Where are we going with this? I mean, I just think that there's so many tangents to this that for us to get to anywhere near the bottom, it's going to take us forever.
Yeah, sorry if I'm just rambling.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Taylor. I'm sorry. I just can't help it. It's me Yorkshire wit. It's me compunction. I just can't help it. I can't help but do it. But you're a young fella. What for me? What is it like growing up in the age of your decision to have a relationship or have relations with or sleep with or do whatever you want is based upon what happens on your phone, and then and you make the decision and you just do one thing, you swipe right or left or whatever it is that they do on these things. That this is the reason why, you were talking about earlier on that there's less and less families, people don't get married, your generation particularly don't get married, and is that because there's so much accessible distractions, you know, other people, you know, and do you think that your generation, because of this technology, are richer than the one well, my generation, the one that's 20 years before you?
What do you mean by richer?
Richer, as in you've got more knowledge, you've got better understanding of things. I'm not talking about financially. Fuck finance, fucking just a joke. Money doesn't exist.
Yeah, you've got as much money as
it's paper. It's freaking paper. You could take leaves off of trees and say that this is money. Pretty much the same thing, but I think. But to answer your question, I think it's more of people just don't want to have to deal with all the problems that come with marriage. You know, having to dedicate your life to another, all the money issues, possibilities of divorce, of the woman trying to take advantage of you, stuff like that. I think people just don't want to go through all the headaches that come.
Take advantage of the woman. You know what? You when you said that, and you said the woman trying to take advantage of the man. There is also cases where the man's trying to take advantage of the woman. So it's just people.
Don't get me wrong. It's just people. That. Yeah, it's people being cunts. I mean, it's people being dickheads, basically. And I feel like that's. You know, I don't know how do you personally feel about my generation not liking the idea of marriage?
I don't think they don't like the idea. I think that it's been moved at them. All the loyalty, you know, that you have with one person, it's been distinguished. Extinguished.
It's all based on quick, easy gratification, like Instagram and stuff. Like, let's go and have sex. That's what the younger generations are doing. They're just all having sex. There's no relationships or anything like that. And I believe that is part of the agenda that is being driven towards the younger generations. If you're over in Japan, I think that 17 to 35-year-olds, it's something like 60 to 70% are single men. 17 to 35-year-olds are single. They're now advertising for robots who wake them up in the morning and say, "Hey, don't forget your keys," and all this kind of stuff. So they're they feel like they're in a relationship, but they're not in a relationship. Now that is
my God.
That's the destruction. That's the destruction of the family in its complete entirety. You've got a single man with automation, himself on his own, no family, no support. If you haven't, 40 years ago, if like say a sibling fell on hard times, you'd have family to fall back on. But the family unit has been destroyed by design. People have got children in different places for different reasons. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does things. I hold my hands up to those. But that's the agenda that has been pushed through this subversion, this cultural Marxism that's been pushed through all the media into the minds of the kids through education and everything. I didn't know what my own mind was. Now I look back, I know I was programmed. It's got to get to a point where you're at least willing to look to see if it's true.
Asking questions.
Yeah, people have got to ask the questions, but a lot of people will say, it's a debt-based economy. Yeah, I'm not interested. Well, what about politics? No, I don't do politics. Politics is interested in you, whether you're interested in politics. Politics isn't
exactly. I used to say that. Sorry.
No, I finished. Go ahead.
I used to think the same way. I used to maybe 7-8 years ago. I used to think, oh, politics, it's nothing. No one cares about politics. But then when you realize that it affects your life, whether you like it or not. It's the same thing with economics. It affects your life, whether you like it or not. So that's why you have to be in tune with these sorts of things. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna play video games and watch people like farting at each other on YouTube and just say, oh, this is what I do and not pay attention to anything." It doesn't work, because guess what's going to happen? They're going to come. A big event's going to happen. You're going to sit there thinking, what is this? What am I doing? and then you're just going to be following the same agenda. It's the same thing with what happened. I believe you probably didn't you. I'm sure you probably saw the same thing when you were young, when Star Wars and movies like that and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies were still new, and people were distracted by that and music. It's like back in the day, it was music, it was the radio, then it was movies and television. Now it's videos on the internet. Entertainment is always been used as a huge distraction to keep people away from what really matters.
Yeah, but the difference being, Taylor, is that back when if I take myself back to when I was in my 20s, I knew that it was a distraction. I knew that entertainment was a distraction. I knew that everything that was being presented to me was to distract me away from what was going on in my life. The difference being is today, kids feel as though it's not a distraction. It's actually part of their life, because they feel like they're left out if they're not part of that, then they're left out. And I never got that. When I were a kid, fucking hell, when I were a kid, me and my mate Eve, we just, for a laugh, really, because we were fucking wankers and we didn't really want to go into school, we organised for school kids to go on strike, and they did. 1,500 kids came out on strike one afternoon. All we said were, "Come on, let's go out on strike. Teachers are always going on strike. Let's us do it," and we did. And 1,500 kids. Loads of people got suspended. We got banned and everything. And whilst I can now sit here and pretend that it was some sort of, social justice and some sort of, we're trying to portray some sort of message, we weren't really. We were just trying to get fucking a few days off, and we did, and it succeeded. But kids these days, they don't know they're being drawn into it. It's like they'll see something. Here's an example, right? People that comment on something, but what they'll do is they'll look at the other comments first, just to make sure that they're staying within the parameters of the people around them, their peers, other people that are commenting. And it just seems that we've lost this individualisticness that we had. I don't know whether that's a fucking word, but
and critical thinking.
If it's not a word, it is a word now.
I can't say it again. Individualisticness. But you're right. But that with critical thinking has gone. Again, it's that ability to hold two thoughts without a belief in one or the other. That's how you critically think. I saw an article the other day. It's been posted again, and it's a transgender woman. So it's a bloke that's become a woman, and the headline states: "Is it discriminatory to turn down going out with a transgender woman?" And of course it's discriminatory. Everything in our life is based on discrimination. Do I like the taste of that? No. Do I like to sit on there? Yes. Do I like this weather? Do I like her? Do I like him? Everything's about discrimination. So what is that headline meant to generate in people? What is it? What's the trigger? What are we meant to argue about? That's what it is. Yeah, but
for me, it's just something to laugh at.
But this is like serious stuff that is being pushed. I mean, we've got clinics over here that are seeing 5 to 9 year olds, sometimes 30 to 40 of them a week in transgender clinics. The society is sick.
Listen, I can sum up this transgender thing in one example, right? Here in Yorkshire, we had years ago. I think it's called something else now, but it was called Galaxy, a radio station. Galaxy radio station, and they got the morning show. You know how morning shows the fucking bread and butter of everything, because everyone's going to work and they're listening to it and whatever. People already at work are listening to it, and they had this morning show, and it was Hursty, Danny, and Jojo. Now Hursty was a guy called Simon Hurst, and Danny and Jojo were sidekicks, and Jojo and Danny were both black. Okay. And so that was the big thing back then, was that, you know, we got this breakfast show. The breakfast show was the biggest show. Now, Hearst did. Do you know what I remember? The one thing I remember about it was that there were one. I think it was just after Obama got elected, and Hursty, Simon Hurst, I think his name is. He said, "Oh, Danny and Jojo have been walking around the office like bosses, you know, because Obama, the first black president." And I thought to myself at the time, I thought, well, that's going to fucking backfire on you. I mean, it's a waste of time. But Simon Hurst was, and now I know sometimes I do give a lot of stuff away about my personal life, but I try to give away not too much, but I try to give away enough so that people can understand where I'm coming from. And this guy, Simon Hurst, he used to post about how he was a single, he was a lone child. He was an only child. He was spoiled by his parents, and he even posted things. He even mentioned things on his radio show about when he'd had his cat done and things, and wanted to. But he were like this. He were like a real lad's lad. Then suddenly he wants to be fucking Stephanie Hurst, and he's off fucking. He's all off at BBC, pretending to be a woman. I don't know where he is now, but he's. If you Google Stephanie Hurst and BBC, you'll probably find him. And like it was as though you could tell from the way that he was talking, because he was an only child, and because he'd had everything that he wanted to. It was as though he wanted something that couldn't be given to him by his parents. It was as though he wanted something that could only be given to him by society, by everybody saying, instead of saying he, saying she and calling him she. It was as if that he wanted something that wasn't from his parents, because he'd been a single child, and he'd worked on radio and all these years and everything, and most of the stuff had come through his parents. I think it was as though he wanted something that his parents couldn't give him, and that's me psychoanalyzing him. But have a look. Stephanie Hurst is what he calls himself now, but he used to be called Simon. I mean, he did fucking chart show. He used to DJ.
I remember him. I remember Simon Hurst.
Yeah, right. Okay, there you go. Now it's Stephanie Hurst.
Wow,
and
I didn't know that.
If I was psychoanalyzing him, I would say that he got everything that he ever wanted from his parents, and he got into his job because of his parents, and everything that he got in his job for his parents, and he wanted something that his parents couldn't give him, and that's why he decided that he was going to pretend to be a woman. And for me, that...
Hey, can I stop you there? Pretend to be a woman. Can I stop you?
No, you can't, no. He's pretending to be a woman. He's not a woman, he's a bloke. He had a dick. Once you had a dick, always had a dick.
Well, that was what somebody posted on that article about whether it was okay to turn down the advances of a transgender woman. And
that's her.
And somebody posted that, well, I prefer my chicks who have never had a dick. You know, that makes sense to me. It makes literal sense. I know for a fact, if I was talking to, let's say I'm talking to a woman, and I find out during that course that is not a woman, that is a man that is transgendered, transed into a woman, that makes me feel different straight away. That is discriminatory, because it's telling me that isn't what I like. Whereas somebody else might go, oh, I'm really up for that. That's not me. I should be allowed to do that. I shouldn't be told that I cannot discriminate to that because that will hurt somebody's feelings. Tough. It might hurt somebody's feelings if I don't throw myself off the bridge. Yeah. It might hurt somebody's feelings if I don't do something I don't want to do. For Christ, Jason, where have we gone? How have we got to this? In our tenure, could you imagine this as fucking kids? Well, we were just playing about in fields, playing football and getting muddy. And then you grow up, and this isn't the world I was growing up in. Something changed somewhere along the line. And it's within the last 10 to 12 years that I've actually been able to have the time to focus on it. And I think a lot of good people find the lack of time to look at this stuff. It's, fate just seems to pave the way, doesn't it, Jason? Puts people in places. You'll know it as much as me, even though you say you try and stay away from the research. You're stuck in an area where you've got nothing to do. I was off for 3 months, engulfed in paperwork and court paperwork. I was stuck concentrating and seeing where all this was going. So until something like that rocks your world, I don't know. It's what we always talk about. But there's certainly so much to be happier about these days, I find, because it is getting that ridiculous that people can't just fob people off anymore, because it's absolutely bonkers.
There's no argument, is there?
No.
There just isn't any argument.
No.
The only argument that anybody's got is you're homophobic or you're transphobic or you're somewhat fucking phobic. That's the only argument that they've got. They won't go, and this is why you are wrong. Here are the headlines. You are wrong because this is how I'd put it to Simon / Stephanie fucking Hurst. I put it, here's how you're wrong. If he said to me, you've misgendered me, I say, here's how you're wrong. 1, you have or have had a penis. 2, you have inserted that penis into a real woman, so I know you know what a fucking real woman is. Right? 3, fuck off. You fucking idiot. For fuck's sake.
You could say something. Let me just add to that. Or you could say, give me your fucking address, bitch. Give me your fucking address. I'm gonna come over there and fuck you.
Okay, well, we'll definitely send him your email address if you.
I've been crack on with that.
I've been watching too many prank calls, man. I've been watching too many prank calls. I'm sorry.
Did you hear what he watches for a bit of light entertainment when he's bored, Jason? Motorbike crashes for a bit of light entertainment.
Or Pornhub.
No, he said for a bit of light entertainment when he was bored, he decided to watch motorbike crashes. That's what's wrong with the younger generations, right?
Well, anyway,
it's not even like serious crashes. Just
go on, you carry on. Oh. You're all right.
Oh, sorry. I noticed that we're low on time, but before we go, I did want to mention something real quick.
Okay.
And that's that. Actually, 2 things.
Okay.
Let me start with.
Can I just say something? First of all, when you say real quick, you mean real quick. And so.
Hey, and the other thing, these 2 things that you wanted to mention real quick, has it anything to do with the subject you actually wanted to come and talk about on for 2 hours?
Sorry, I guess I really have gotten off track. It's just that there was.
So you actually want to talk? The subject you want to talk really quick about is the subject you wanted to talk about for 2 hours.
Go on.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. My bad. Sometimes I just blurt something out without thinking. I'm sorry.
Go on.
It must be.
Go on, really quick. Go on.
Real quick.
Well, I wanted to say about what you said about the robot thing earlier. I noticed James Corbett loves to do videos about that, talking about robots controlling things and all that stuff. I don't know if you paid attention to that, but I watch James Corbett every now and then because I do agree that a lot of his videos, some of them I'm not really that interested in. Others I find fascinating.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about James Corbett.
He's an Israeli-controlled prick.
I mean, sorry, I do.
No, I'm going to say on fence.
Is that after you fell off the other side or what? I like some of James Corbett's stuff. He's done some quite to the point, succinct videos, but other than that, it's just information to me. I don't particularly follow people. I like information. If the information sounds good and it starts to join dots, I don't really care who's telling me the information. Jason's told me some good bits of information that's joined some dots.
Yep.
Right.
And then you got people like Alex Jones, and you're just like, oh, why is this guy still? Oh, and Roger Stone.
I'm not sure.
You're just mentioning people that we don't even know, man.
I know Alex Jones, but I am of the opinion that he, at least wherever he started out to be, is seemingly a gatekeeper. He's willing to go so far, and then he's dropping the ball. But that's it's the same with everybody who wants.
Are we talking about Oliver Stone?
No, Alex Jones.
Roger Stone.
He's all about Roger Stone, and I'm all about Alex Jones.
Oh well, we're all over the place, aren't we? Alex Jones, Roger Stone, Ian Crane, fucking Dick and Dane.
Roger Stone's the guy. I thought that he was wasn't he like a best friend with Alex Jones, Roger Stone?
No idea.
At least
Roger
if I remember.
Stone. Oliver Stone might have been. He did JFK, didn't he? He did the film JFK.
Oh, speaking of Oliver Stone, that's one thing I wanted to mention real quick. I don't know if you knew about this, but Robert Kennedy's son, Robert Kennedy Jr. right now is trying to reopen the investigation into the deaths of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. The thing is that there are some people that are on his side right now that are trying to, how should I say this, trying to sabotage things. And Oliver Stone's one of them. And that's what I just want to just make people aware of.
How shall I say this to you, Taylor?
It's window dressing.
Thank you. I'm just about to say the same thing, Webby. How can I say this to you, Taylor? It's a show. It's all a show. All that's a show. Nobody's going to ever get to the bottom of anything. It's a show.
Imagine a juggler with going on.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the time I went to the circus one time, and the clowns came out, and they were going around going, and then this one of them stopped right in front of me, and he looked at me, and he pointed at me, and he said, "Are you half a cunt?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, you must be a full cunt." So I was gutted. And then the following night, I thought it's got to be like it just must have picked me out at random. So the following night, I went again, and the juggler came round, the clown juggling, and he went, and he pointed straight at me again and said to me, "Are you half a cunt?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you must be a full cunt." So there I am. I'm fucking gutted. So what I do is I go to the fucking Yellow Pages and I find the world's wittiest man and I hire him for the night. I said, "You need to get me a comeback on this bloke because he just keeps calling me a cunt all the time, and I've got no." I said, "You really need to get me a good comeback." And he says, "No problem, leave it with me." That's 5,000 quid. So I paid him 5,000 quid. Me and him went to the fucking circus that night, and he sat next to me, and the clown came round juggling and he stopped again, and he pointed straight at me, and he went, "Are you half a cunt?" And then I said, "No." And he said, "You must be a full cunt then." And so I turned to the guy that I paid 5,000 quid to, and he stood up and he went, "Fuck off."
I think he just should have kicked him in the nuts and been like, "There you go, guys." That's just me, though.
Listen, thanks to you, Taylor, for coming on tonight. Thanks, Webby. It's glad to have you back, mate. And I really do like having somebody to bounce upon. Even though
before we go, one more quick thing, because I'm so quick with everything. One more. Can I say one more quick thing?
Yes.
I just want to say, a lot of people my age, they got them anime waifus, aka they basically be treating them as the women as real women. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Fucking clue what he's talking
about. They be freaking printing out.
Are you hearing?
Oh my
I haven't got a fucking clue what he's talking about. I heard nothing.
What you're talking about?
Absolutely nothing.
Get back it up. Listen, Taylor, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight. Thank you to Webby. Brilliant having you back, mate. We'll be back tomorrow night. We've got Pippa King on tomorrow evening. And is there anything else I need to do? I know a lot of people have already deserted us and gone off to see Cookie, so go get yourself onto Cookie Monster show as well. Cookie Munster. Steve Turgoose as well is another one. Please, somebody send me a list.
Oh, Jason, before you go, Jason,
Sorry.
Amanda Jane asked which school it was that you took out on strike.
Dinnington Comprehensive School.
There you go, Amanda.
There you go. Right, so we are going to go. We'll be back tomorrow night. We love you and we miss you. Give us a like on the thing as well. You know, it just makes us feel a little bit better, like, you know, we're not just doing this for now. But brilliant from Webby and brilliant from Taylor. And tomorrow night should be marvellous. We've got Pippa King on and she's going to be awesome. I love you all. Take care. Bye.